Next, let's look at ways to develop data science capabilities for your organization. This is not an exhaustive list. It covers 4 key approaches organizations use to develop data science capabilities. The 4 approaches are transforming existing teams, creating new teams, data science as a service teams, and crowdsourcing. The first approach is to transform an existing team by leveraging existing resources. To do this, it is important to first assess each team member to determine what skills are currently available and where the skill gaps reside. Ask such questions as, are there any skills we have but no longer need? Or are there any skills we don't have at all? If gaps are identified, decide the next steps for every member on the team. Skill gaps can be minimized through enhancing the skills of existing team members and adding new team members. Other options to consider may include retaining this employee in their current role, retaining this employee and making a plan to develop their skills, moving someone into a new position, and adding new members with the needed skills to fill any gaps. Transforming an existing team is a good approach to consider when heavy domain knowledge is required. For example, in subjects such as genetic research, pharmaceuticals, and aerospace engineering. In addition, large companies tend to choose this approach to leverage their existing talents. Let's look at another approach, creating new teams from scratch. This approach is typically used for startups, companies where data is the product, companies wanting to develop a new competency in analytics, or in fields that are not as reliant on domain knowledge for the analytics. An example in this area is online retail, which most people are familiar with and requires less domain expertise than life sciences, such as genetic research, as mentioned in the previous slide. A third approach is to use data science as a service, which can either be contracted internally or with external providers. You may want to engage data science as a service providers when you prefer to keep the existing organization structure, or when creating or transforming are not viable options. Service level agreements should be considered when engaging internal resources or external providers. If you plan to choose an external service provider, start with identifying a data science problem you want to solve. You need to define the desired business outcome and clearly specify the deliverables and schedules. You may need to evaluate and choose from several service providers and develop cross-company sourcing teams with domain experts to cooperate with the as-a-service provider. Last but not least, you need to define how the deliverables will be evaluated. The last approach to developing data science capabilities is to crowdsource data science. Crowdsourcing is based on distributed models leveraging either the wisdom of crowds or swarm creativity. It is different from traditional outsourcing in that the target is a diverse and highly distributed group of people, and there is no service level agreement. A famous crowdsourcing example is Wikipedia, a multilingual, web-based, free content encyclopedia that can be openly edited by anyone worldwide. An example more related to data science is the Netflix $1 million prize, an open competition for the best collaborative filtering algorithm to predict user ratings for movies. The winning algorithm outperformed Netflix's own algorithm for predicting ratings by 10.06%. In 2012, the Music Data Science Hackathon, sponsored by EMI and EMC, drew 75 data scientists from across the world to London and many others online to compete for $10,000 in cash prizes. During this 24-hour event, more than 1,300 formulas and ideas were submitted answering the question, can you predict if a listener will love a new song? By analyzing the EMI 1 million interview dataset. Unlike data science as a service, the project sponsor may have little recourse if he or she does not like the outcome of the crowdsourced project. The turnout of crowdsourcing may not always be satisfactory. This is often known as crowd failures. I've added 5 examples of crowd failures in this week's additional resources section. In one of the examples, NASA called on the public for help in naming an international space station. In addition to their own ideas, they also gave the general public the opportunity to vote for suggestions the public put forward, as well as NASA's own list of names. Comedian Stephen Colbert caught word of the contest and shared it with his fans. Soon the name Stephen Colbert had 6 times more votes than any other options. NASA decided not to honor the winning choice. Here we compare the benefits, drawbacks, and concerns of the 4 approaches. It is important to evaluate the pros and cons of each approach to determine which is best suited to meet the needs to solve a particular business problem. Transforming is typically chosen for organizations that require strong domain knowledge or knowledge of the business processes. In general, the quality of service gradually increases, but choosing this option may risk homogeneous thinking and some team members may resist the change. If you choose to create the data science team from scratch, you would have more control over the skill sets of your team and increase the ability to deliver high-quality services. But the hiring and onboarding processes can be time-consuming. The Data Science as a Service approach is easy to scale on demand in that you have the option to choose the most suitable service provider according to the scale of your problem. Team members have the chance to learn from outside experts, but the service provider may not understand your company's unique processes. In contrast to the transforming approach, the quality of services generally decreases over time as the contract ends. Crowdsourcing leverages wisdom of the crowds so you can get diverse perspectives. The cost is generally low and you can receive fast results, but there's no service level agreement. Your data problem has to be open in nature before you put it to the public, and it might be difficult to do that. For example, if your data includes customer records, the customer names and other credentials have to be anonymous. Crowdsourcing is difficult for domain-intensive tasks, since these tasks often require the input from domain experts. Crowd failure may happen, therefore it's better to have a plan B.